On tonight's episode, Houston, we've got a problem. There's some Hall of Fame talk gonna go on. And we got some chicken nuggies. Welcome, everybody, to the Jersey Tales, a mascot's take on sports. Joining us tonight, we've got Silox is here. Bunt's here. Jingles might be joining us. And it's me, Red the Ram. Welcome, everybody, to the Jersey Tales. Also, I just want to cue you up so that next week, hopefully, we're going to have a really special episode with you. We have an interview with an actual Division I mascot that's going to be hopefully coming out for us next week. So you won't want to miss that because we're going to be asking all of the questions that everybody wants to ask a mascot. So we got that coming. So just, if you listen to us on Spotify, that'll be out first. And then a day or two later, we'll have the YouTube up as well, just in case that's the route you want to go. All right, so there's been a national championship game in the shooty hoops, in the squeaky shoes. My favorite sport of all time, college basketball, and I, along with Jingles, watched the game the entire time together, and it was fun. And I hope everyone else that was here got to watch the game. I am so glad that Auburn wasn't in it. Because even though my bracket sucked, I did say that I thought that Florida was the most complete team. And don't go off my bracket. I guess go off the nonsense that I spill like right before I fill out my bracket.
Well, all I can say is mine wasn't too far off. They made it the semifinals. I can't be mad. And my percentage wasn't too bad. Too bad, at least.
Oh, my bracket was awful. Like I filled out that bracket with hate and brimstone. So
we knew.
Yeah, you would.
We could tell.
But it was a neat game. So like let's talk about like some of the historic. So it was the oldest coach potentially who could have won the national championship, and it was the youngest coach who could potentially win the national championship. So that was neat. Secondly, it was two teams with two different styles and philosophies in how they play the game of basketball, and it was one of those situations where you got to sit there and watch and figure out who was going to win that tug of war of who was going to make the other team play the way that they want to play.
I mean,
go ahead.
You mean how the other team watches what's his face Clayton Jr. and see what they need to do to him next so he doesn't score on them?
Florida plays a very fast, high-paced game. They really like that transition. They want you to run with them. That's what Florida kind of thrives on. Houston, they can run. Their transition game is actually quite good. But what they are masters of is ball control and controlling that clock. And if they get up, they will tend to win because they can sit there and then they get everything down. They get down to the very last couple seconds. They get their play in. They don't make a lot of stupid mistakes. They're very low on turnovers up until this game. And, there was a time. Let me go to the first half. Because the first half was a good example. Houston was playing the way they wanted to play. When they had a fast break, they were able to take it. They were able to go. They were able to score. But then when they didn't have the fast opening, they slowed things down. They controlled the game. That's why they were up at the half.
Yeah, Houston was on fire. Like you'd swear that like if they like if this looked like this the entirety of the game, Houston was going to win it. Because not even their best scorer could do anything with Houston's defense going around. They couldn't do anything. They had to figure out how to dice up Houston's defense. And that wasn't too easy for them, but they did it.
I mean, part of it, again, Florida wanted to play a certain way. I disagreed with the talking heads at the end of the half because Jingles had to sit there and listen to me complain about it. They were so obsessed with the pick and roll. But when you watch the way that Houston played, the pick and roll is what's going to work against them because eventually they're going to get tired and they're going to get sloppy and they're going to start committing fouls. And that's kind of what happened in the second half. But I don't want to get ahead of myself there because in the first half, they were both playing exactly the way that they wanted to play. And if you could keep them in that lane, we would have seen a repeat of the first half or the second half, and Houston would have won. What happened is Houston cracked. Whatever it was that Florida was doing to them on the floor, it kept getting Houston in a hurry where they were trying to make baskets where, like off of a fast break that Florida was already set for. And when they would go in to get that, then they would be low percentage shots. And they were just throwing it up there. I can't tell you the number of times I was sitting there watching them, and the clock would still have, 15 seconds left on it. And Houston's just throwing it up there like they're behind a bazillion points. I mean, there was at one point when I was watching it with Jingles where I think there was like 3.5 minutes left to go in the game, and Houston was up by 8. And I was just like, oh, well, Houston's got this. Like that. At 8-point deficit, Houston can run this out for the next, 3.5 minutes just playing Houston ball. But then they didn't. They were like, I don't know if it was something that Florida was doing that got into their heads where they were doing hurry up stuff. Oh my gosh.
Or it could just have been a whole sense of, like cockiness have been like, hey, let's hang up 50 on these kids, or let's see what we can do here. But I mean, I kind of doubt that. But like,
it's not that. I mean, it could have been it's championship game nervousness. These teams are not being like that. Like this isn't some non. I mean, again, it's the Big 12 against the SEC. It's not.
No, I know. I was just making it funny. Because it does seem like some teams do that though. Like not even being like serious about the whole like I'm just gonna lay down like let's hang up 50 on these kids or something like that. Not even like about that. It seems like teams that do gain that lead, they just kind of like it's like we have the lead. It's maybe we got this. Maybe.
Yeah, and then you turn it on, and you hope you're playing star ball, and everything goes well. But all it takes is a momentum shift in those situations for things to turn. But that's not what happened. Somehow Florida convinced Houston in that second half to play the way that Florida wanted to play ball. And again, these are two completely different, opposite ways of playing basketball. Like Houston's all about control, limiting your turnovers. Florida doesn't care about turnovers. Like you look at the stats. I think they had like 9 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But it didn't matter because they're playing hustle ball. So they're going fast. They're being scrappy. They're attacking that ball. And so they're trying to get some steals. Houston, for whatever reason, went from being – and now they were still rebounding great. But they were losing on a couple of key metrics there where things just weren't going their way. And then what ended up happening is, Florida just came out with the W because they just wore them down.
Yeah, and another thing that I did notice was that Florida, they eventually stopped trying to go immediately to Clayton Jr. They kept trying to rely on their main baller when Houston had them on clamps, but they did start using Condon a lot more throughout the game as well.
Well, Clayton started being more of an assist machine is what it ended up being.
But like they started, when Condon got a hand in, making some points in the second half, that had a little bit to do with throwing Houston off, I feel like.
I mean, he was cold. It took a while for him to warm up. Like his 3-point shooting wasn't great. But as soon as he realized that he could be an assist machine, that's when it went on. So, Cy, I assume that you saw the ending, though.
I did see the ending. That was one of the weirdest endings to a basketball game I think I've ever seen.
That's what I'm
couldn't make tails of
saying.
it. Right? I could not make tails of it. Like Houston, they just seem to. They look like deer in the headlights. There was no. It also seemed like there was no sense of urgency. Granted, they had what 20 seconds after they had gotten the ball back.
19.7.
Yeah, and there just didn't seem to be as much urgency on their side. I think the worst thing they.
Wait.
could've-
You're saying it seemed like there wasn't any urgency.
No, that wasn't. They were moving slower than they should have. And
I think their problem was they were speeding up. Because if you look at the shot that he was going to make,
Mhm.
and he makes that jump where his feet leave the floor with the basket, he's not set. He doesn't have a good shot and did not have time to make that decision about what he was going to do with that ball afterwards, which is why he had to drop it. So that was him moving too fast. Secondly, they were trying to go for the kill shot.
Yep.
And
I agree.
and
Go ahead.
nobody's hitting threes. Nobody's been hitting threes all night.
I agree with Silex. They actually slowed it down because once they crossed half court, it was 10 seconds left. You wasted 9 seconds to dribble up that ball up to half court. And you want to get the offense going with less than 10 seconds left. You just want to throw up one shot only. When you're a great rebounded team who thrives in the paint, and yet you just want to throw it up for a three to see if it actually hits or not. You're not a 3-point team. You're the guys who combined over 13 combined for threes in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Over 13 for threes. It was like horrible basketball, horrible officiating, and yet here to bleep we are with down to the final shot.
So I'm looking at it. I'm rewatching it right now, and I still stand by my assessment. They had multiple opportunities to get that ball off, and they didn't. They waited until 4 seconds to get their first shot off.
Yeah.
What they were looking for was they were looking for the kill shot. They could again this was the problem. Then the clock runs down, and then they're in this hurry, and then he's just going to do something silly at the end. What they should have done is focus on the strength, which is playing inside the paint. Gone ahead and tied it up, gone into overtime, and then that gives you a chance to reset and be like, hey, we lost that half. We won the first half. We need to double down on what we do well. Now, maybe Houston thought they didn't have the depth to be able to do that, but I doubt that. I mean, they did have one guy that was in foul trouble.
Yeah, and what kills me is, and to your point, they're not a 3-point shooting team. That's not their strength. I'm looking at it again. 13, he's right there at the free throw line.
Yeah.
Granted, he has a guy over him, but he's taller than that person. He could have easily gotten it and had an easy shot with 11.7 seconds left, and you missed that. Well, someone's there to rebound and under the hoop. You have a chance. I just don't understand the thought process because they waited so long to create some kind of play there. But like I said, one of the craziest endings to a game I think I've seen in a while.
Well, on top of that, the rest of there's one guy on Florida's team that hits free throws. Everybody else sucks at hitting free throws. So you should have been fouling early. Got your lead, and then you could keep that on there because then you're trading 1 point for 2, especially with the way that Houston had been playing. But they couldn't even do that part right. Like that's the part that I don't understand. It had to have been nerves on somebody's part. I mean, there were multiple times when I was poor Jingles had to sit there and listen to me like coach from the TV, like you need a timeout here. You're flustered, you're making mistakes on both teams, but they just didn't. They just kind of let the stuff kind of float around. Like at some point, you got to go like, okay, I need that timeout. We need to reset. I think Florida still didn't they like still have one timeout left by the end of the game?
They did.
They did. Houston ran through all their timeouts early in the second half and only had one left to go into the final 5 minutes.
Oh gosh.
So
it was all about coaching.
Go ahead. Can
What were you
someone
saying?
explain?
Go ahead.
So, can someone explain to me real quickly? 21. He was the last person to take a shot. Now, it's looked like the shot got blocked. Why didn't he go after the ball? He just stood around and watched it.
Because he thought it was travel if he got it. But no one said it was a block or not. So that was the thing. There was no communication. You saw another player from Houston like guarding the Florida
Yeah.
players. Like, are you going to get the ball? Are you going to get the ball? He was like guarding. It was like, I don't know if I should or not.
So bizarre.
I mean, there was a goaltending on Florida that didn't get called.
There
But
was a lot of stuff that didn't get called.
I mean, all right. So they were letting them play ball. They were letting them play physical ball. I didn't have a problem with the officiating, honestly, for the whole game. Like, I'm watching it as a neutral party. Florida was playing really aggressive. Houston was playing really aggressive. They were bumping and smacking into each other all over the place. That kind of play, if both teams are equally matched, you really want the referees just to let them play it out, because you really kind of want to see who's going to be the best team. Now, a goaltending, on the other hand, that's a very important call, and that's not a up to interpretation. Yeah, that's the difference between running a stop sign and a speeding ticket. It's like, okay, I have the discretion to give you this speeding ticket or not, and okay, I'm going to let you go with a warning. That's some of this foul stuff. But like, you either ran the stoplight or you didn't. And the goaltending was like 100% goaltending, and I was surprised that they got away with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's one of those crucial fouls. Like like in football, right? When somebody missing a pass interference call, it's like
Mhm.
that you would equivalent with basketball. But like when it comes to like those minor holding penalties in football, it equals out to like those in basketball, that they are just bound to miss almost. I mean, it's kind of hard to call every call in basketball anyway, with all the commotion going on at once in one pile.
Yeah, but at least they focus in on the ball usually. But they were letting. I mean, the things were getting a bit physical, and I'm fine with that. Like, I like that kind of basketball.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Physical, that physical aspect, it gets it hyped.
Well, it's good because then once, and then they're consistent, and they were consistent. Once Houston reached over a certain line, they started getting a bunch of fouls. Now Florida, they got in trouble early, and then you could tell that the refs were like, okay, we got to do some makeup stuff. Because I think at one point, like, Florida had like 7 fouls and Houston had nothing in the second half. So there were some makeup foul calls, especially after the like, Florida had like 2 technicals, right?
I think so.
I think that's right, Jingles, right? Because they had the one on the bench. Oh yeah, they had the one on the bench,
Yeah,
and
two
then
technicals. One on the bench because all the assistant coaches went out on the floor in the first
Yep.
half. The second technical was that one player bounced the ball up in the air off the court and never caught it. If he caught it, okay, it's not a tech, but he just let it bounce and it was a tech.
so, like, I know it's a weird thing because you're like looking at it going, the youngest coach had arguably the least disciplined team. I mean, from turnovers to technical fouls to just kind of craziness, and still won. So, which honestly, if they would have lost, could you just imagine the type of vitriol and hate that some of these players would end up getting?
Oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
could imagine, honestly. So kind of lucky, Florida fans. You actually won something.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Even playing sloppy, which, like, to be fair, like, that's the type of basketball I like to watch. So
Well, somebody in sports got to struggle for the other team to win. So,
Unlike
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I absolutely
almost
agree
Duke
that
almost got there.
That ending was wild though, because I instantly tweeted after the game. I was like, what? What just happened? Huh? What? This is terrible.
Well, yeah, because Florida won. Yeah, I get it.
It's terrible because Florida won. And it's terrible because like there was like no effort. Like I mean, I get it. They could have played it better and did their time a little bit better and not have tried to make that shot. But what's said and done, there needs to be somebody to get the ball. It's the last couple seconds. It might not work, but you can at least try.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, Florida only led for 1 minute and 4 seconds throughout the game. That was
Yeah.
I was like, that's a very interesting stat right there. You only led for 1 minute.
Yeah, because straight up, like Houston went up that 8, and I was like, "All right, Jingles, I'm gonna go use the bathroom. I'll be right back." And I was like, when I come back, I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be something crazy, like Florida's somehow caught up, but I doubt it. And I come back, and I was like, "What is this? We have a ball game."
No, that's giving me flashbacks to the 2018 national championship in football. I don't want to talk about that one, but it seems oddly familiar.
It's fine. It's fine. And you're just gonna have to get over your hatred of Florida. Uh, I so
Well,
he was stop. He was the head he was the head coach from Iona, right? Isn't that what the Florida Gators coach? Wasn't he the head coach at Iona?
San Francisco. He coached at San Francisco.
Did he coach at Iona?
Huh?
Did he coach
talking
at
about
Iona
Florida
beforehand?
coach.
The Florida coach.
No, he coached at San Francisco, University of San Francisco. Yeah.
And that's the only place he coached.
Yes, that I have looked at. Yes. It's so good that Wikipedia has like the head coaching stuff up for each when you go look at the person because you can see where they coached. Yeah. So he coached at San Francisco. That was his prior stop. That's it.
And that's the only place that he coached.
And look at him now.
Yeah,
39 years old, and he won a title.
38.
And that's no 39.
It said
So-
on TV 38.
Oh, someone's lying, either the TV or Wikipedia.
Well,
Which one?
do
Tune
you
in
think
tomorrow to find out.
Do you think the person who owns like the youngest coaching record like went in there and changed it? Like, oh no, I'm making him 39, so he doesn't have the record.
So here, I do have his coaching career up. Assistant at Columbia, assistant at Auburn, an associate head coach at San Francisco, coached San Francisco from 2019 to 2022, and he's been the head coach of Florida since 2022. So he won
What
a
a-
national title 3
Yeah.
years in.
Wow.
That's insane to get a title that fast in your career. Like,
in the
It's,
hardest
go ahead.
conference across the nation.
At the time. For the year. They get 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year. 1 year only for the SEC, okay?
it's insane. He is time to go back. I mean, it's compared to Calvin Sampson, who's 69. Like that might have been his last shot at a national title. I think.
And,
at his age.
sorry. Can someone explain to me why Duke is the opening favorite to win it all next year?
Because it's Duke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's just Duke. It's just Duke. That's it.
Duke's gonna Duke.
Certainly, Duke is Duke.
I'm
Playing
sure
more than
they'll.
reruns of.
I'm sure they'll pick up people in the transfer portal. I know we're sort of kind of past this era of one and done to an extent, thanks to the NIL rules. But I don't know if who they're bringing back next season. I know Flag is going to draft. Like that's more or less confirmed at this point.
He's
But,
off to the Wizards.
Yeah, so I'm sure they'll strike it big in the portal and might bring some freshmen and sophomores back. But
Well, yeah, because with Duke though, even with Flag out, they were still a really tough team.
They were.
So if they just go out and they find like the next Cooper Flag to come in and just, we're gonna they're back to the Final Four again.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's the way the Duke's always been, though. I mean, let's be honest.
They keep rolling, even with Krzyzewski gone. I can never pronounce his name. John Shire has done a really good job picking up the slack. And,
Yeah, he's done a good job.
He really has.
I mean, when Coach K stepped down, I thought Duke was in for a bit of a reset moment. It's like, all right, well, you got a bunch of basketball money, but now there's like football money in basketball, and so like you guys can just take a step back, and you're just gonna kind of find your spot. And no, they were just like, no, hey, you know what? We know how to hire a replacement coach for a Hall of Famer that left because, whew, howdy, we didn't. I mean, Mac smelled like the right coach to get the first time through, and then after that, we won't talk about the dark times. That's why Duke is always favored because it's an easy thing. I mean, it's it's like saying Kentucky's probably favored if it was any other year other than this one.
Actually, I'm curious now. What's it the odds to win next year?
All right,
yeah.
I got him right here. So Duke is favored at plus 1,000, followed by Houston at plus 1,200, Louisville at plus 1,400. Why is Louisville third? Yes, Louisville is third.
That's a prediction. That is crazy.
Purdue 14, and Kentucky at 16.
Just because he's here, I'm gonna say nah. I disbelieve.
That's fine. I don't think we're gonna win it because I'm not jinxing this. But we do have a pretty awesome recruiting class, and we are playing the portal some. So, and I think his NIL budget had gotten doubled now after he made it to the tournament his first year.
Some other notables on this list: Purdue after Louisville, BYU, Brigham Young University at plus 1,600. Florida plus 2,500, and St. John's at plus 2,500 as well.
Do you think would you classify Florida as like finding their new Billy Donovan? Because that's who this coach reminds me of. I stumped you.
I mean, it's too early to tell. This is only his third year. Now go back to back, then we could talk.
Yeah, because it took Billy Donovan, 5 years before he made it to the title? Actually, let me look that up. I was actually looking at Billy Donovan earlier.
His coaching style reminds me of Billy. His teams remind me of Billy. He looks a little bit like Billy, but he does remind me of like the next Billy Donovan, where every major coaching opening, they're going to be looking at him. NBA is probably sitting there looking at him now. Heck, maybe he goes off to the Nuggets like right now, and like
no.
So spoiler, that's coming soon. Don't worry.
So real quick, Red, it's so funny you mentioned that about Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan went to his first national title game in 99-2000, 4 years after he got hired. It took Todd Golden 3 years. The similarities are crazy.
It is really
weird.
close, right? Like Florida has. I mean, granted, like if you've ever been to Florida, Florida's always got a type. Like it doesn't matter if it's the school, the state. There's always a type that you're just like, oh, that's And but when it comes to coaching basketball, it looks like they've got their type.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all want to see what happens next year and see if they can sustain this level of success. Obviously, I'm not saying that he has to repeat, but if they're just as successful, then I think we can start having that conversation of Florida has probably found their next Billy Donovan.
Did he have a repeat? Did he have back-to-back?
Yes. He won in 05-06 and 06-07. He won with Joakim Noah and a bunch of other guys on
You mean
those teams.
it's 06, 07, 07 and 08.
Yeah, because those were the
2007 against Texas, 2008 against Kansas.
no, it was 05, 06. Because in 06, 07. Because 07, 08 wasn't that Kansas who won?
Yeah, oh yeah, 07, 08. Yeah, 08 was Memphis, Kansas. My bad. Huh.
Yeah. Make your free throws, Memphis, or else you would have won.
Yeah, it's Calipari. He doesn't teach anything.
Oh man. But yeah, no, I think they've got someone in Todd Golden at Florida. So
I mean, I'm a bit envious, but like at the same time, I'm still excited about my coach. So we'll see how he does. Again, 3 years from now, I may have a completely different opinion.
so you're telling us you don't miss Kenny Payne?
Oh no. he was a University of Kentucky plant. Like we're convinced he was just an agent because he had time on their staff. Like he's an agent. You know, so there's somebody in Lexington who's just writing him a big old check, which is crazy because we had to write a big old check just to get it to go away.
You know, there might be some truth to that because he is at Arkansas with Calipari. So there might be some truth to that theory that he was a plant.
He was really good with working with the big men, but like he did not have a media personality. So like even when he lost, he never accepted blame. Like he blamed everyone from like the players to the fan base to the arena. Like every time he lost, and it's like, dude, you're losing a lot. You're running out of people to blame. Like at some point, when you're playing Little Sisters of the Poor that you're supposed to win against, and you lose at home in one of the nicest basketball arenas in the country, if not the best college basketball arena in the country in terms of niceness, there's a problem. Like literally lost an exhibition game. Like and not because he was doing something to like Pitino would get close like on some of these because he'd be like, I'm trying different types of lineups and I want to screw with other people's films, and Pitino would just do weird stuff. He was just like, this is how we're gonna play basketball, and that's exactly how we're gonna play basketball for the rest of the year. Like there were no mind games going on.
Insane.
We lost less games than we won last year. Like, anyway, Hall of Fame talk.
Oh boy. All right. So I guess
Melo,
this was
right. Melo.
Yeah. This was spurned upon because Carmelo Anthony is entering into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Keyword: it's the basketball. It's not the NBA. It's the Basketball Hall of Fame. And this was brought up first and foremost in the NBA, the furry NBA chat, and it sort of ignited a firestorm where you had some people who were like, Melo doesn't belong in the in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and other people who were like, well, their accolades and their awards put them there. So I guess it kind of led to this discussion I wanted to have. What's the easiest and most difficult Hall of Fame to be in, and who should be in there and who really shouldn't be in there?
I mean, if you're a coach, it's the Namesmith, right? It's the I'm probably mispronouncing that, but like the Basketball Hall of Fame, if you're a coach, like that's a real thing. And if you're a player, though, like it's he doesn't belong in there. But like, was it just a thing where like we don't have anybody else to put in there? And they're like, really? Like, there's nobody because he hasn't done it. Like, did he win the national title?
So, who? Melo?
Yeah.
Yes. With
Okay.
Boeheim. He was Boeheim's only title. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, is he just getting in on college, or is he getting in as well as like the NBA stuff, though?
Mr. Olympics, that's his nickname, also winning 5
Oh,
gold
yeah.
medals with Team USA.
That's
He's in there
also why he's
twice.
getting
He's in
Yep.
there twice for that, right?
in.
He's in
For
there. Hang on. He's in there twice for that, right?
Oh yeah, he was on the. I know they did the '92 Dream Team. I don't know they add the '08 team into the Hall of Fame.
they might have.
Did they add the Redeem Team into the Hall of
Oh.
Fame?
Let me. Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
it was.
Yeah, because it's one of those situations where he's in there twice for some reason.
Yeah. So
So
he's
he's-
in for that. Go ahead.
So he's in there for the Redeem Team and for individual accomplishments. Then
Yeah. So,
So-
like I'm fine with the redeem team.
Like just some quick stats. As you mentioned, NCAA champion, that 2003 Syracuse team. He was the Final Four most outstanding player that year. He is on the NBA's 75th anniversary team. He won a scoring title in 2013, 4-time NBA third team, 2-time All NBA second team, and a 10-time NBA All Star. He strictly looking at his NBA accomplishments, I tend to be a very hard grader for Hall of Fames to begin with. I
Yes.
wouldn't put him there. He seems like a Hall of very good. But when we factor in the Olympic stuff and, of course, his time in college winning the national title at Syracuse, I mean, that brings it all together. And he was one of the most prolific scorers of the 2010s. Like, he knew how to drop buckets when it mattered. So I can see why you'd put him in there. But if this was strictly like the NBA Hall of Fame, he'd have no shot because those numbers don't scream Hall of Fame to me.
so basically, this is the equivalent of Heinz Ward walking into Canton.
Yeah. More or less, yeah. And this is no disrespect to Carmelo Anthony or Heinz Ward. Just being honest, like when I can. There are some players I could look at like Kobe or Shaq and be like, "That's a Hall of Famer." Melo's not one of them. Doesn't pass the eye test.
Now the question is like if Melo was playing, if Melo actually had a team around him, would that have changed our perspective?
I think early in his career with the Nuggets, yes, because he actually had a team when he went to New York.
At the Knicks,
Yeah,
They did for a few years. They did.
when they were just awful.
no,
No.
they were actually decent in the playoffs. They actually made it through almost through the second round. If they if they would actually play defense, they would actually made it to the Eastern Conference Finals one year. But he had no one in Denver. You think washed up Allen Iverson's going to help Carmelo Anthony in his beginning years over in Denver?
So let's just hypothetical this real quick. So if instead of LeBron going to the Heat, Melo was there. With that setup, would they still win the title?
They won't against the Mavericks. They'll probably beat the Thunder. I don't know up against the Spurs.
No. For like when LeBron left Cleveland and went down to Miami, so he was with D Wade and Kevin Love.
With Bosh, yeah.
Bosh, yeah.
And you throw instead of LeBron, you throw Melo in there.
Mm-hmm.
Are they winning the same number of titles as LeBron?
No. They only win one. That was against OKC. They won't beat they won't beat the Mavs. They beat the Thunder. They won't beat the Spurs in back-to-back. They won't.
Yeah, they wouldn't win any titles in
None.
Miami. No, they wouldn't.
Huh.
Melo is a really good scorer, but I have never once known him to be a good defender. Like at least LeBron, you can make a case that at his peak he should have won at least 1 or 2 defensive players of the year.
Goes and plays out west. Plays with Steve Curry. Do they still win? Or Steph Curry? Not Steve. Sorry.
In place of who? So who are we taking off that team? Out of that big 3? Well,
Your choice.
so if we take Kevin Durant off that team and
Okay.
we give them prime Melo, I still think they're winning because they're just going to be unstoppable shooting the ball. Like
Okay.
they would still win.
And would they win by a higher margin than normal?
No, I don't.
But the score would be
No.
higher.
It would. I don't think you'd see any difference, but they would probably win the same amount of titles that they did with Kevin Durant, which was 2 or 3. Yeah, so they'd still win the same amount. I think that team itself, those Warrior teams, were so stacked with talent, especially with Curry and Draymond and Clay and their supporting cast, that you could swap out pretty much, for the most part, anyone not named Curry, and they would have won titles.
All right. So what if we team up Melo with the Beard down in Houston?
Harden?
Yep.
Okay, now. All right, now
I'm
you've
just trying
got
to figure. Yeah,
now you've got an argument. You've got an argument now. You've got this is a good debate though. You've got an argument. That's why I was laughing, because that's actually hard to say.
Who's going to dribble the ball more?
Yeah. I don't know how to answer that. I don't think I can answer that.
Is Chris Paul on that team? Because he was there with Harden. Are we going to be talking about that team?
Well, you get to pick one player to replace with Carmelo Anthony.
So you're going Anthony, Harden, and Paul on the Rockets team.
Well, they get past.
That's the
I think they
championship
get
team right there.
Yeah, they get past that. They get past the Warriors of that squad. I think they do
Oh, yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Now, if it was just Harden and Carmelo, no, we're not having that discussion. But if it's those 3, oh yeah, no, they get past the Warriors that one year where they were leading the series, and
Yep.
I think they won it all. But
So he's got enough to change off of generic. Pick the worst player on the team, replace him with him. Yeah, he's going to give you a bump. Is there a superstar you could replace? I don't even want to call it. Is there a star player that you could replace with him that would then change the outcome in a positive way for the team you stick him on? Because that's the metric you use for Hall of Fame, right? So, like, if I take Michael Jordan
Mhm.
and I stick him on a team that is missing a piece, and they win the national title, or not the national title, but the championship, it goes in favor of Michael Jordan. If you could take him, stick him on a team, and replace somebody else, a star player, and they make them better because they're there. That should be the requirement.
oh yeah, I think some players, not even in just basketball, but you can say this in football also. Some players are just so good, like your Michael Jordans, your Kobe Bryants, your LeBron Jameses.
Your Eli Mannings. Well, not
yeah,
Eli. Peyton.
Yeah, but it's like
we'll go with Peyton. We'll go with Peyton. We'll go with the other one.
That's a good example though. So like 3 quarterbacks come to mind: Peyton, Breeze, Brady. What were they good at? They were so good at what they do. You could pair them with any wide receiver or tight end, and it didn't matter how pedestrian the receiver looked. Well, the receiver was. They looked great because they had some of the best quarterbacks you ever play throwing them the ball. Like, those three make their teams better around them, especially their offense, you know? But we don't see those kinds of players come along in any sport that much. It's very rare. Like, Mahomes is that player right now. You know, he makes.
Well, we don't know because like Mahomes has Reed and he's got the system. Like he's got to prove it to me, and the way that he can prove it to me is he needs to like leave and go to the Chargers.
Oh God. The Chargers of all teams.
I don't know. Actually, he's no. In order to prove it, he needs to go to the Raiders.
Oh God.
Oh
Ew.
boy.
No one's winning there. That's a black hole for a reason. No one's winning in Vegas. I'm sorry.
Well, you know who could? I bet you Tom Brady could.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, we're done with the go. We're done talking about him.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet you Peyton Manning could.
Is he going to bring his idiot kicker with him?
His liquored up idiot kicker.
Look, if it's good enough for Secretary of Defense, it's good enough for a kicker.
Oh my God. Okay. Not expecting that, but okay.
I had to say it. Is his wife going to order up more PEDs for his forehead?
Oh no.
Look. She's just got stock in like a headband company. That's all. Like, you know,
Oh
That's
no.
crazy.
saw Coneheads and was like, you know what? This does things for me.
We're actually doing this. That is wild. But so at least with basketball and football, just because of how the dynamics are, I think one star player you can insert or take out, and they have such an effect on the game. And let me clarify this. With football, it's strictly the quarterback. It's strictly the quarterback position. It's not any other position. It's the quarterback. But as far as the Hall of Fame goes, I do think the Basketball Hall of Fame is probably the easiest to get into. There are people in there who don't belong in there.
You know,
Yeah,
Howard.
I mean, I'm with. It's weird because for me, for coaching, like, it always seems like on the coaching side of things, it's really hard to get in there. But as a player, it's how much has your name been in the media? Like, do you have name recognition? Oh yeah, like I know that name. Right. Like, can I walk down the street of Cincinnati and just pull someone over and be like, hey, random person off the street, do you know the name Carmelo Anthony? And they're going to look at me and they're going to go, oh, yeah. All right, great. That's a vote. It's kind of how it feels as a player.
The barrier of entry is so low. Like, all MVPs who all the MVPs in the NBA are in the Hall of Fame. And I say that because, and coming up shortly, Derrick Rose, he might not make the Hall of Fame simply because of the lack of a longevity, and the numbers aren't really there. And they have to figure out, well, how are they going to do this? Because he won an MVP in the NBA, but outside of that, because he was injured, he's been injured so much, there's really nothing else to go off of. And he didn't win anything at Memphis. You know, he got to a national title game, but, you know, they lost that.
Oh, maybe we'll get the MVP for test taking.
Actually, wasn't that title game like vacated?
Yeah.
2008, yes, because it
it was
test scores.
Test scores, yeah.
Oh, okay, so it never even happened.
That Final Four for Memphis was vacated because of that.
So it never happened. Okay, well, he has nothing to go off of then.
Yeah, don't worry, Memphis State fans. I always remember you.
If Derrick Rose doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, nor should Joel Embiid. They both won MVPs. Some of the MVPs would be in the Hall of Fame. If Derrick Rose doesn't get in, Joel Embiid is not going to get in.
All I'm saying, Memphis State fans, is like, look, all right, we may have had ugly strippers, okay, but hey, at least we didn't come to play pretend school, okay? We're still an actual viable institution.
Oh, that's
Now that all,
crazy.
well, hey, you know,
You're
look, you don't know
throwing some
hate.
wax strays out there.
No, this is fine. Like this is, we have a couple of rivals. I mean, obviously everyone hates Duke, and then we've got, you know, the Walmart fans out of Kentucky, and then we have Memphis State, and those are our big three. And then there's Cincinnati. So like, I don't want you guys to like, because I know there's a lot of people from Cincinnati that tune in and listen because I talk about the Bengals a lot. Y'all are fine. We miss you, just like we miss West Virginia. But like, there's a little hatred that's on this other side of the coin. That like, I hope we never get to. Like, I love playing against you, and like the feud and the fighting and you know on the court. But y'all never threw a switchblade knife onto the court at our coach. That was the level of hatred that we had for Memphis State. They did that to us when we were down there. So
Whoa. No, Jingles, no. So, no.
It is going to happen. It must happen.
So I'll tell you why it's not going to happen. There is no way they're putting someone the likes of Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame at the same time as Drew Brees. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Saints homer. I'm saying that because you'd be besmirching the legacy of one of the greatest of all time with a guy who's failed upwards his entire life. And I mean no disrespect, but let's be honest. He
It's
might
like
not
when
be
Kurt,
getting
it's
into
like
the
when
Hall of
Kurt Warner. It's like when Kurt Warner and Brett Favre were both up at the same time. Who's going to get in first?
Ooh.
Well,
And
yeah.
what happened? Favre got in first, then Warner got in the second year.
Oh, also, just for anyone that's listening, I just want to make sure this is clear. This was not a weird cut that happened. Like what had happened is Jingles had posted that in our side chat while we're doing the show, and that's where that discussion like magically appeared from.
That is a take. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, Eli gets in.
Not next year. Because Rivers is also up. And yeah, that's all. That's so weird.
You think Eli gets in before or after Rivers?
He has to.
Before
I don't
Rivers.
Before.
He has
Yeah.
to. He's the one kryptonite to the GOAT. He is the one poisonous tin can that the GOAT cannot eat.
Unfortunately, you cannot.
This is going to be. I'm looking at this list right now. Yeah, this is going to be really hard.
Yeah, that's that class this year.
You got Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Jason Witten, Frank Gore, Phillip Rivers, Marquise Pouncey, Todd Gurley, LaShawn McCoy, Des Bryant, Julian Edelman, Thomas Davis, Geno Atkins, Alex Smith, and Jarrell Casey, all eligible for the Hall of Fame.
There's also Luke Kuechly too from last year, who's just sitting there.
Yeah,
as well.
Luke Kuechly, and you got Eli for the last year too.
Oh god, that's gonna be a tough class. Oh, and Adam Vinatieri as well. Like,
Yes, and Vinatieri.
you gotta put him in. So it's like, well, that's gonna be a fun class to watch. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's gonna be messy.
And
Anyway,
Torrey Holt, yeah.
Oof. And Heinz Ward.
Okay, Burrow. Let's simmer down there.
All right. We're moving on. So Denver, you know, didn't they win the they won a chip like what?
3 years ago.
22 months
Miami.
ago.
Very, very recent.
3 years ago.
And they've
Well,
decided that even though they've won championship game, well, multiple, that they are done with their head coach. Go.
Yeah.
All,
So, go ahead.
all I can say is when I got that notification while I was at work, I literally stopped what I was doing and I grabbed my coworker and I was like, it is close to the postseason. Why? Why was this decision made? I don't understand it.
The NBA this year has decided that, like, hey, none of our decisions make sense. We don't care about timelines. We're just gonna do crazy stuff because nobody's watching us. Like I'm convinced that's that's why you fire your championship winning head coach. Couple years out. That's why you trade your superstar to LA for a guy who is basically held together with duct tape and hope. Like, I mean, come on.
That notification, that news literally stopped production at my work because it shocked everybody. It was like, what? This is news. I'm kind of curious. I don't think anybody expected that on their bingo card today.
No, it's bizarre what happened. So for those who don't know, the Denver Nuggets fired both Michael Malone and their GM Calvin Booth today in stunning fashion. This is probably the craziest thing to happen this season, not named the Luka Doncic trade.
Or the Memphis.
Well, that yeah, that kind of
well,
makes sense the more I think about it. Like,
yeah.
And
This
I'll
is definitely
touch on
number
that.
two. This is number two.
Yeah, I'll touch on the Jenkins stuff in a bit, but it's what's also so crazy is we're 5 games out from the playoffs, and they decided to pull the trigger on this. It's like if you wanted to move on from Mike Malone and the GM, you could have waited until the end of the season. Now you have an interim coach in there, and you have also ruined the team chemistry in that locker room by ripping a coach out from them like that. You think they're going to be able to focus now? Even though they're professionals, that weighs heavily on you. I don't care who you are.
This was Stan Kroenke's idea. It was like, he's not fitting our mode. Let's go ahead and get rid of him and go ahead and get a head start for the next year. I'm like, wait, why are you doing this? You only got 3 games left in the season before the playoffs, and you wanted to do this now? Really, Kroenke?
He's going to make a play at Florida's head coach. I don't know.
I think the only reasoning I can come up with that kind of passes the smell test is they've underachieved so much this year. Even though Jokic has gone out and had...
Yeah, about to say the Joker went the F off almost every game during a 40-point triple doubles.
He has no help. It's literally
Murray,
Jokic,
Westbrook,
and there's nobody else. It's literally Jokic, nobody else. Jamal Murray is there doing whatever, and Russell Westbrook is Russell Westbrook. That's not enough for him to compete for a title. The Lakers got better with the addition of Luka Doncic. The Oklahoma City Thunder are probably the best team in the league. And then you have the Houston Rockets, who are sneakily good. So the West is so stacked, and they cannot compete with just Jokic and, I don't know, whoever else decides to show up, maybe. Like, that's been a problem for them all season. There's no consistency with their bench or with the rest of their starting rotation, not named Jokic. And so I could see management saying, go ahead.
I can understand getting rid of the GM, but the coach
now is not the best time.
Yeah, I mean, you keep your coach, and from what I'm reading, there's a ton of friction that's going on with the coach and should we say the owners?
Yeah, coach and GM, they both had an issue. They were in some kind of struggle earlier that day over Russell Westbrook. That's something that I saw before we went on the air. that they had some kind of back and forth going on. So there was some kind of friction there. So I'm not sure if the owner just got involved and said both of you are wrong and you're out and you're just out of here. But it seemed like behind the scenes something wasn't right.
Why do you fire the coach though? If the coach and the GM are fighting, you don't fire both of them. You fire one or the other.
I don't know.
Unless
Maybe.
unless you think the coach is the problem, which I mean, I'm a firm believer. Like, hey, you want a chip, so like you get a little bit of a leeway as far as that goes. I'm trying to think. Who's the one that they brought back to the Knicks for a little bit? Big
Phil
man
Jackson.
coach. Yeah. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
God.
yeah,
That was such a disaster.
I know. I mean, I could be wrong. Like, so it could be another Phil situation, but at the same time, that should have earned the coach at least a little bit of leeway of like, hey, the GM hasn't given me the pieces that I need to do this again. And you guys want to do this. So fix that. Now the GM may be saying, I've given you all the pieces and you just can't coach them. But then he just needs to turn around and point to his national championship or his championship trophy and be like, that says I know what I'm doing. Because I've done it before. And you're the one that's wrong. So I don't know.
Well, the NBA
Yeah.
is quickly becoming like the NFL. It's becoming, what have you done lately for me? And teams have no issue firing coaches, even if they've won. Like, they want to win now. It's the here and now. It's not down the road.
I mean, to be fair, they let Bill struggle for a while before they let him go, and he was the supposedly the greatest coach of all time. But I'm not going to put supposedly. He was, I think, at least up to this point, one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But how many seasons did he struggle? Was it 2, 3?
We made the playoffs in the first year without Brady. Then 2 years he struggled after that.
Yeah. 'Cause he made it with Cam. Was it Cam he made it with? Or
No,
was that
Mac Jones.
That's
Was
right,
it?
Mac Jones. Yeah, it was Mac Jones because they started 9-3 that year. That's
Mhm.
right. Yeah.
So winning a Super Bowl or winning a bunch of them gets you 3 years.
Yeah. Because what? Doug
Or-
Peterson won one in Philly, and he was out of there fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were gonna run not Peterson, who Sirianni out of Philadelphia very quickly too, and he had just made the Super Bowl. Like,
Made the Super Bowl the following year. It was like, oh, this team went 10-0 and the team like blew up and lost down the road, lost in a wild card game against Tampa. Everyone wanted his head halfway through last season, and now they won the Super Bowl.
yeah, that's crazy.
Well, I mean, look what happened to Andy Reid.
Yep. Yeah.
Wins you a Super Bowl, and then boot him to the curb, and then he goes win what 4 more for somebody else.
Yeah.
Went to 4 straight NFC title games. Went to the one with T.O. The following year. T.O. melted down from McNabb.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
I think they're too quick to fire coaches. I mean, and sometimes you also have teams, like my poor beloved Bengals, who tend to hold on to coaches a little too long.
Yes,
So
y'all
like
do.
the rest of the league,
You held on to Marvin Lewis for how long?
Hi, Marvin Lewis. How are you doing today? How was your 0-6 playoff record going?
we should have won one of them. I watched that. I was there. Like it was like, I mean, to be fair, like that was. I don't want to get into that.
That's a different story.
That's a different story for a different
But
night.
here's the main question we need to ask the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets. What's the end game? What's your end game? We know what the Mavericks' end game is to get a new arena with the casino and a hotel or move to Vegas. But what's the
Yep.
end game for Memphis and Denver? Firing the coaches with less than 10 games to go before the playoffs.
I think I can, at least for Memphis, I can kind of answer that. I don't know about Denver. So for all the praise that we've heaped on to Taylor Jenkins as a coach with Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., that team has kind of, they have not played up to their potential. And there's reasons for that. Obviously, Ja Morant being out because of his whole cosplaying as a gangster stuff. There's also been injuries to that team. But this year especially, they've really underachieved because Ja has been back for pretty much all of the year, to my knowledge, and they've just underachieved. And they're wasting his potential. Excuse me, not his potential. They're wasting his prime. Well, he's not in his prime. But
Going into his prime.
Yeah, they're wasting him. And I think there's a sense of urgency in Memphis right now with ownership there that they don't want Ja to leave and go to a big market. They want to at least win one or at least go to one, And Taylor Jenkins might have just maxed out the team potential. And that was a conference semifinals appearance. Sometimes coaches are like that, they're good, but they're not good enough to get you to the next level. I don't think Jenkins was that. But at least with Memphis, I think they are concerned they're wasting Ja and they don't want him to leave. And so that's why the firing of Jenkins makes a lot more sense for a team that's struggling and is probably a play-in team as opposed to whatever Denver did, because that makes no sense.
But also remember, 4th through 8th in the West is all separated by a half a game.
Yeah.
Going down the stretch. So that's another thing right there. You don't know if you're going to be in the play-in or not. You could be the 6th seed, but next year you'll be down to the 8th seed.
Yep. It's all close this year. Very close. Outside of the 1 seed, everyone else is up in the air this year. But I will say that I also do think Stan Kroenke's a smart man. He may be a prick, but he's a smart businessman, and he knows that he could lose Jokic if they don't put something around him and they don't win. You're wasting the prime of one of the best players to ever play this game. I will die on that hill. He is one of the best players to ever play basketball. And there are odds out there now that he goes to LA, which is, first of all, that's disgusting.
I just saw the rumor about that.
Sleeper team.
If he goes to LA, I will stop watching basketball. I will not watch NBA ever again.
I'm done watching the NBA. Did you read my lips? Do you hear? Hey, Adam Silver. Hey, Commissioner Ears. Is your satellites ringing up between your head? Did you hear what I said? I'm done watching the NBA.
Yeah, but everybody enjoyed watching the NBA when it was Michael Jordan getting all those rings, right? Right?
I think it was right place, right time.
For Jordan, yes, it was the right place, right time. But now we got. I'm just going to say it. I blame the player power movement right now in this league. That's what's crashing this league. Is these player movements, like the Mavs trading away Luka because we don't want to pay him. He's overweight. He's this and that. We want to get. We're lobbying to get.
Luka trade had nothing to do with the player. Like Luka was worth it. They just didn't want to pay him, and they are wanting to save some money for something. We don't know what that is, but that's what they're wanting to do.
What they're saving is trying to get a new arena with a hotel and a casino, lobbying Texas Congress people to legalize gambling in the state so they could actually build their new arena with a hotel and casino. If not, they're going to move the Mavs to Vegas. That's what they're doing. That's what they've been trying to do in the last year. And with this movement right here of trading Luka to the LA, you literally tell your fan base. We've been seeing the fan base in Dallas the last 2 months protesting against the GM, against the owner, and saying this is a horrible trade.
Love to see
Yeah.
it.
I know we all love to see it.
No, I mean, to be fair, like it's just terrible. But let's go ahead and wrap this up because I think we're gonna be all right. I think there's only there's nothing else to cover. So hey, if you enjoyed our show and you're following us on Spotify, we want to thank you for that. If you're not following us on Spotify, but you're listening to this on Spotify, please do follow us. We would much appreciate that. If you're listening to this instead on the YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment, give us some notes. We will read them. Same thing on Spotify. I think we got comments open on Spotify. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys next week where we're gonna have our special interview with a Division I, big time Division I mascot, and that'll be fun. So we'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye. Have a wonderful time.
We're gonna get sued eventually.